Hi, hello. I should be audible and I should have captions. Hello out there in the internet world. We come to you on this day after spring. Just had it audible and captioned. Awesome. Just had it basically was just informed and remembered rather that is in fact the day after the equinox. So happy equinox, happy spring. And in order to celebrate that, we're gonna go back to madness. We're gonna wrap up what we started basically in the month of February. I can speak. We were playing through this scenario right here. The Call of Cthulhu: Edge of Darkness. It is a module that comes with the Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu starter sets. It comes with 3 nice modules. Each module progressively is a little bit more less hands-on. So if you're just starting off as a GM, and especially if you're just starting off as a keeper in Call of Cthulhu, it does a nice job of walking you through. Basically, the first module is very hand-holdy. The second module is slightly less. And then the last one is basically gives you a few tips and pointers and then lets you on your own to explore it. We're doing the second module. This is one called Edge of Darkness. So, I will bring in the rest of the crew and then we will start the recap. So, yep, I can't move my mouse. There we go. All right. Crew, you are now audible. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself,
Hello.
Michael, who you're playing today.
Hello. I'm playing Dr. Nevada Jones. He's smart. He's a little bit off his rocker, but that's fine. That's fine. He'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay. 20.
Hello. Let's see. I am playing Keiko Kane, who is a student and a scientist, does not believe in any of this hocus pocus mumbo jumbo, but was shaken enough by seeing what had happened to our friend Rupert, and wants to help get to the bottom of it to put him at ease on his deathbed.
Awesome. And last, Tony.
All right. I am playing Wentworth, fairly well-read individual that finds all this stuff interesting. And I am not voicing him like a bad English butler, no matter what the image says.
Aww.
I don't got it in me. It's been a rough week and it's only Tuesday.
Understandable. So, to recap what happened last session, I'm going to go into Lore Link and actually look at the last session because that will give you a good list of what events happened and what events didn't happen. Details, events. Okay. Okay. What happened last time? You were summoned to the deathbed of one Rupert. I've just forgotten his first name. His last name rather. And that's why I have notes. Rupert Merriweather. He summoned you all. You had all met him in various manners over the years. And he confessed to you that he had been hiding a dark secret for all of these years. That he and a group of schoolmates in their younger, wilder years had started a cult, dark brotherhood, secret society, however you want to refer to it, and had dug into the occult, believing it kind of a harmless, fun, rebellious pastime to poke at the edges of the universe and see what happened. They had bought a farmhouse at the edge of Arkham, the town, basically the town that you are in, and had gone there on various evenings to mess with occult rituals and things like that. However, you discovered through notes that were left to you, one day they got their hands on a sarcophagus with strange carvings and basically hieroglyphs, basically normal, relatively normal looking Egyptian hieroglyphs on the outside and strange lost language engravings on the inside, which they claimed had basically had a piece of amber with it with some kind of creature in it. The leader of the group had actually tracked down the nature of the amber and believed he had found a ritual. Marion Allen believed that he had found a ritual that could release the creature inside, a djinn, and that said djinn would serve them, and would be a guide to the spirit realm for them. Most of their previous attempts had failed, and so it was with not much more expectations the group embarked on this ritual as well. They started the ritual. Things started to actually happen. A smoky figure appeared inside kind of emerging from the amber, and then one of their friends decided to try to greet it, and in doing so, crossed the summoning circle. And met a gruesome end that was so shocking it instantly drove one of their other friends out of his mind. In panicked reaction, they broke the circle, hoping that would banish the creature. Instead, it kind of freed it into the house itself. The remaining members of the Brotherhood fled, hoping that whatever it was would not pursue them, and survived the night. They covered up all traces of the activity and hoped that was that. However, when going back later to get some of their things from the house, Marion Allen discovered the fact that the creature still was trapped inside of the house by the magic. Cracked open by the cold one. They discovered that the creature was still trapped inside the house by it, but the creature maliciously seeking to torture them, informed Marion Allen that it only had to wait for them to die, and on their death it would be freed. They all kind of went their different ways, some of them seeking to ignore the events of the house forever until pretending it didn't happen. But Marion Allen and Rupert Merriweather both sought to undo the evil they had done, but never could bring themselves to revisit the house. Rupert basically instead kind of invested himself into investigating the occult and trying to give aid where he could in other areas, seeing if he could undo the evil he had done. And Marion Allen tried to figure out a way of undoing that ritual in particular. However, Marion Allen's path ended abruptly when he was murdered by someone who took a fancy to the artifact he had been carrying. Rupert told basically all of this you discovered from Rupert and your research afterwards, leaving you essentially with just one last avenue investigation left to you. The farmhouse itself, whose location you have been given. It is just on the outskirts of town. And you know for a fact that, rather you have been told that the creature still lurks there, held back only by the protective runes that Marion Allen had engraved into the house. But how much of that you actually believe is still up for debate. So, with that, we turn it back
How
over
old
to
is
you.
this house?
How old is the house?
Yeah.
It was an old abandoned house when they went to investigate it back in 1870, in the 1870s.
Excellent. There's maybe some archaeological value here. I'm excited.
I mean, it's less than 100 years old. It's no Egyptian tomb, but
Well, that's fine.
so the question is, how do you wish to approach this final section of the investigation?
So we confront our problems head on. Going out to the house and just walking the front door.
Yeah, the last thing I recall us deciding was that we were going to travel out to the house.
Yes.
What they said.
Do we have to stop for supplies, though? Like, y'all, do we need anything?
It's a few
Could
miles
go for
west.
a burger.
We just ate, remember?
Your point? When the player is hungry, so is the character.
Yes, hence why you might hear that I've been crunching on something.
There you go.
Well,
Did we decide who's driving? I don't remember who has a car.
Me either.
the answer is the student likely does not have a car on her salary.
Yeah, probably not Keiko.
I doubt the professor does on his salary either.
You can
I don't know. Maybe they were paid better back then.
Spending level $2. Yeah, rolling in the wealth over here. I got this.
I'm willing to say that one of you owns a car, or you can take the bus. There is a bus that passes through the village, Ross's Corners. The bus stops at Ross's Corners shortly after 10 a.m. on the way out and before 2 p.m. on the way back.
Yeah, I'm all for the bus. Let's do it. I'm feeling generous. I'll buy all the bus passes.
All right. Oh. Gee, thanks, Dr. Jones.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, if any of you seeking to, basically, if you're seeking to bring anything unusual that isn't already in your listed amongst your possessions, let me know. Otherwise, I will assume that what you have is what you've got.
I'm good.
So, just to confirm, we still have the sarcophagus.
You still have
and
everything that was in the box, yes.
And the paperwork and stuff. Okay, good.
I, of course, have my trusty hat.
I have a pen, and as we all know, a pen is mightier than the sword.
I knew I forgot to open something. My character sheet.
That will
It's
be
fine.
helpful
I'm
for this
fine.
adventure. It's fine. As long as you don't take any actions that require you to make any skill checks, you're fine.
Right? I don't need anything. It's fine. All right. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So, you wait for the bus. It is basically get onto the bus. It is relatively uncrowded. I mean, it's probably about half full, I would say. Most people, however, aren't stopping at Ross's Corner. Ross's Corner itself, when you get there, is a small town. Basically, you could tell the fact that it had its heyday long ago during its heyday was during the 1800s, and not necessarily the late 1800s. And so there are buildings and homes and a church, general store and post office, a gas station, and a milk depot are all that kind of remain of the once. You're not even sure if it was once thriving, but at least once more populated town. The bus kind of
You
pulls
said
up. Good.
you said what was between general store and gas station, please?
It is a combination general store and post office.
Thank you.
There is a gas station and a milk depot. You're guessing the population is probably less than 40 people. You basically, by arriving, you have made a significant increase in the population. However, the local residents don't seem particularly thrilled in rolling out the red carpet for you. Most of the people you see give you a little more than a glance, then continue on their way.
I'll tip
Seemingly,
my hat at them as we walk by and march up towards the house. I'm sure that gets people's attention. I'm sure they're staring at us walking towards the house.
well, you have to walk out of town to get to the house. It's a
Yeah.
farmhouse, so you've got a little
It's
bit of a
fine.
walk. You're walking essentially out of town at this point. Okay.
Does anybody stop and try to ask what we're doing there?
Nope. No one in particular.
No.
People are unsmiling. Maybe basically, you definitely get people kind of give you double looks. Basically, kind of staring. You get at least one glare. You're fairly certain. It's like there's Yankee reticence, and then there's basically give me a psychology roll.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Oh, my macros are gone. So
As a
it's two
reminder of how.
D6, right?
Good.
How do we roll that?
If you go to your skills, if you go to your character sheet and click on skills, you will be able to make sure you are not in edit mode.
Right.
And then click on the skill psychology. It is in the furthest right corner, the column. You will.
There it is. Got it.
Good morning. The skill roll number. As a reminder of how the system works, lower is better. And it works in terms of being, if you are basically getting under the skill is a normal success, getting under half of what the skill is, so basically 40 versus 20 is a hard success, and then getting under, I believe it is under 15%, is considered an extreme success. Here, basically, it is 8. So you can see that the two of you got failures. Basically, Nevada Jones rolled a 1 and thus got a critical success. You are 100 basically there is basically you're used to basically like small town, new people. There's always a little bit. This is not that. This is people looking at you're fairly certain that some of these cases are definitely accusatory. Something has gone on here, and these people are openly hostile towards you at this point. They're not going out of their way to basically do anything about it yet, but
I want to make clear that we will have put the sarcophagus back inside the box and are carrying the box openly, not the
Okay.
sarcophagus.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, like you are all relatively well dressed. So it is a little unusual. Basically, like basically the type of looks you're getting are the type basically if three people got off the bus and were obviously like roughed up and basically cut up jackets and were basically a bunch of teen kids spoiling for a fight. You would more understand the looks you were getting than the looks you're getting currently. Like you get a couple of doors kind of closed before you get near them, conversations stopping and basically restarting after you passed on your way out of town.
It's fine. I shrug it off. I'm used to getting strange looks as an archaeologist.
Not this level.
Ah, something
Well,
really seriously has gone down around here then.
the only time you
Like
think you've reached this level
shenanigans.
is when you were recovering those items for the British Museum, and some of the people in the area seemed upset with you doing that.
Oof.
It belongs in a museum.
My museum in a different country, for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you make your way out of town. You are basically, it's about a 2-mile walk.
Okay.
All right, so you make your way out of town and head down Boone Road, basically going north out of town, and then after 2 miles, you come to what you're fairly certain is the path. Checking your map, looks like it. There's a not ominous
Is
at
it the path
all
of least
lightning.
resistance?
Oh, Lord.
Is it the path of least resistance?
No, it's a little bit more resistant. Basically, it's definitely not maintained. So
So you're saying this farm is off Boone's Road?
yes,
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
yep. And so you'll actually basically you're looking at the path, and basically the only kind of landmark really left is a lightning. Basically, is a tree or what remains of a tree, which has obviously been struck by lightning and partially burned. So it gets that weird kind of basically some parts of it are alive and other parts of it are burned and dead, and basically kind of split down the middle.
Okay.
So you will head on the path and head in towards the house, and we will actually go ahead and this is not going to be to scale. Do not treat this like a old school Dungeons and Dragons grid, but you should see a farmhouse, or basically you should see the outside of what the farmhouse is at this point.
It's not loading for me. Should I just refresh?
Is everyone else
Same.
seeing it? Or is it just are you just getting a black screen?
Black.
1 second.
Hey.
There we go. There we are.
Have to make sure I give the tokens vision. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So, it is hard to describe. Basically, it's hard to describe what the feeling you get as you move closer to the house. This is basically this takes place in July, and you're here basically probably a little bit after basically you're coming on like 11, like not quite noon. And even for basically even in the Northeast, it is it's been a warm day. Probably not basically you're probably looking at temperatures in the 70s, probably make it up to 80s today. But as you get closer and closer to this house, basically it just feels like you keep checking the sun because you swear like a cloud has passed over it, and you get that kind of brief chill as you lose the heat from the sun. Like a wind, basically, like maybe there's a chill wind kind of blowing, but it doesn't really stir the trees or your clothes. Basically, the farmhouse itself becomes visible after traveling. Basically, traveling probably a little bit down, basically down a little bit down the path. You come around a turn, and you can see the road. Basically, you see the road, which is a wide, weed overgrown gravel track, leading up to the remains of the farmhouse, and the remains of a large barn. 18th century salt box design, with a high peaked roof with windows flanked by sagging shutters. While most of the windows are broken, the ones that are intact are filthy and resemble frosted glass due to the years of dirt and dust. It's a single story structure, probably no more than 2 rooms. It's got you're guessing there's an attic, might be likely a basement. Basically the roof is definitely been rained on and basically not maintained. It is starting to bow a little in places, but all the shingles are intact. But basically for all of that, it is just it just basically just looking at it basically kind of basically brings a stillness and just kind of a shiver down your spine, because it feels empty. It feels like it's basically like it's alone and it wants to be left that way. It isn't greeting, it isn't welcoming visitors, it is more saying keep out. You'll quickly kind of realize that there's no bird song either. It's quiet. The only real noise that you can hear in the area is that of wind kind of basically going through the tree branches. And that's about it.
I
You
feel
want
the
to
image
basically want a
was super
picture of what it
quiet.
looks like. Here's one.
And a hush falls over the crowd.
I feel like there's not going to be any cheap wine tastings at this farm on Boone's Road.
Right?
Sadly, no.
Tony. Maybe it's a haunted wine tastings.
Exactly.
Why are you on this map? So, how do you what do you want to do at this point? You're still you're still a ways away from the house. So you can see the house, you can see the barn. You can see
There's
from the
no people.
picture. There is nobody obviously moving around. No.
Yeah, got it.
Is there there's no movement in the windows or anything?
Not that you have seen yet.
through the filth.
Yeah,
Got
I mean, like it would have like if it's like there are broken windows, providing a little bit of gaps, things like that, but no, basically no obvious movement outside of you're guessing. Basically, like you're like, oh, was that movement? Oh no, it was a curtain. The remains of a curtain fluttering.
Got it. Okay. And just so I'm clear, did we come from like the bottom left corner of the map?
Yeah, basically you're coming from that direction, so you saw the front of the house, which is that handout I showed you was, and you will come. Basically, the path leads essentially around the house, so you can either walk up to the front of the house. Basically, the path there's very definitely a split in the path where part of the gravel goes back around the house, and part of the path, basically part of the path goes directly to the front of the house.
Okay. Can Keiko see enough of whatever these reddish symbols painted on the house to understand them?
You're going to have to get closer.
Let's get closer.
Okay.
As we are approaching the house, Nevada will slide his right hand underneath his jacket and leave it there. Of course,
Okay.
what that means is that he's
He has really cold hands.
ready. Yeah,
Tony!
he's ready to pull out his 38 should it be required. And then he will attempt to step around. I can't actually see the house, which is interesting. I just see black shadow on the map. So
If you
he'll
move
tend to
around,
walk
you'll get
around
more of the inside.
the house. He wants to move up to a window and peek in.
Okay.
I can't tell. Is this a window here?
That's the door. That's a window.
Oh, that's
there.
the door?
That's a window. That's the door.
I can't see where you're clicking if you're clicking.
Because, as always, the joke is, I'm on the wrong layer. That's the door.
A window.
That's a window. This is a window here.
Okay.
That's a partially opened door. So if you're going around the back side of the house, currently.
Okay. Step up there and peek inside.
Okay. And what are you doing, Whitworth? Before I start handing out rolls, as it were.
I'm just waiting to see what Dr. Jones sees in the window. I'm I'm up there with him.
Okay. All right. Keiko, you're looking at the symbols. Go ahead and give me a occult roll if you have it.
Well,
Okay. Basically, you're looking at them, and they are not in any language you can identify. So you're guessing that they are occult symbols, like from what the descriptions that you read, basically in the journal of basically Marcus Merriweather, Rupert Merriweather, get the name right. And they basically, in what you read of his journal, basically he describes some of the basically type of things, and this matches some of the descriptions he gave in the book, in the journal, of some of the things that Marion was carving, and they all kind of made fun of him for. Basically because he was keeping out spirits that obviously never showed up, or kept them in, or whatever. But they seem to match those. They are in surprisingly good condition for all of the years. Dr. Jones, peering into the window, you're probably looking into, basically around the back side of the house at this point. So you're looking into what is probably a back room here. So basically you're looking in over basically what you can see through the window. This is one of the intact ones. So you're kind of having to press your face against it, like, it's good. It looks like there is a bundle of basically like some kind of basically there's a desk or a table you're looking at here, and it looks like someone has like a wool blanket, not wool blanket, sorry, basically a large piece of fabric that has a bunch of different things that you can't really make out. Has been kind of left. Basically, has been left on the table. You also all noted when you went around the backside that the back door is open, kind of hanging slightly ajar.
The one right in front of Keiko?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are there any
I don't see any.
noises?
Yeah.
There's a faint
Noises or movement.
squeaking noise as the door kind of moves back and forth on its hinges in the wind. Keiko, since
Suppose we
you're
should go in.
you're looking at the door, give me a spot hidden roll. Okay.
Nice.
You will note that there are basically muddy boot prints, kind of leading up from the path and leading into the house.
Are our feet muddy?
A little. Like it was dry. It's been drying out. It rained a little last night.
Are the muddy boot prints on the ground more wet than our feet?
Not more wet than yours. No, they're dried.
Do they look like they were super wet though when they were deposited?
It's almost hard. It's possible. You're not 100% sure. You're
Okay.
you're kind of looking at it, being like, they could be recent. Like, you only noticed them after you'd already had come all the way up here, so you're not finding any other traces of someone else of where those boot prints come from. Basically, if they came from basically in one of your traces, there are definitely some on the back stoop.
Okay. Keiko will point all of this out to the others. And then she too will arm herself out of her satchel with her handgun, whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay. Wentworth, do you wish to do anything?
I don't have any firearms, so yeah, I'm not arming myself.
No. Outside of that, like you're kind of standing on the back side of the house. Are you just going to stand there with the rest of the group? Or are you going to move around? Are you going to look at other windows?
Is this a window over here? Or is that a door?
Yeah. Those are both windows. One of them is broken out. One of them is dirty. This one is the broken out one. This one.
Okay, these are the windows. Okay. Yeah, I'm peeking in this window.
Okay. Basically, it's relatively clear. You can see inside here. This is more of a front room. Basically, more of the living room, probably. So basically, this is. You can see in this. You can see more inside. You can see the fact that there is very definitely. There's some of those So those same carvings are carved on the inside here as well. Here you're looking at a fairly standard living arrangement with basically tables, a sofa, basically a sofa, a chair, things like that. Double checking something. Basically, there are stairs down. Basically, you're really near. You can see there are stairs down into the basement.
Okay, so no stairs going up, but stairs going down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There is definitely a smell to the room. Basically, something smells off about the room. There's an iron stove resting against a wall, ventilation pipe still connected to the outside. A round table with chairs near the stove. The wooden floor is warped and stained. You're fairly certain that's due to basically water dripping through the leaking roof, which is also probably the reason why the chairs and sofa are moldering and rotting, which is probably the source of the odor.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
maybe.
Eh.
And did Keiko say anything about the muddy footprints? Do we know about them yet?
Yeah, she told you about that.
Yes, I said
Okay.
that I would share all that.
Go ahead and give me a listen check, Wentworth.
What is listen? CD. Seriously, where's listen?
It is under languages in the center column.
Oh.
There you go. Okay. Basically, as you're looking in, you swear you hear basically kind of basically a brief kind of scuffling and scurrying kind of noise coming from the cellar. Because you're right by the stairs there.
Okay. I kind of back away, go back over to them, and let them know that I'm hearing something downstairs. Right under me was a
There's a downstairs.
stairwell down to a cellar, and there's something down there. Might be rats. Who knows?
So the stairs open to the inside or the outside of the building?
The stairs were inside.
Okay. Well,
They're right
so I
under
guess
the
we go
window I
on
was
in.
speaking in.
Do you want me to go in first? Do you want to lead the way? Looks at Keiko.
Oh, be my guest, Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones steps on in and pushes the door open.
Both of you all three of you actually give me spot hidden as you start to go inside the house.
Oh, really?
You are focused on going inside.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Nice roll, Tony.
Both
Well,
Keiko,
The ones that aren't barging in quickly.
Yeah.
Basically, you're doing basically he's going inside, and you're doing a kind of a last look around outside because you're not getting like that feeling of being watched, but you're getting that unsettling feeling like something is wrong with the area, and you're constantly kind of looking, trying to figure out what that is. And both of you will basically both of you will kind of spot out in basically kind of a red patch in the grass around the house. Like it's like basically like it's all obviously overgrown and things like that. But basically there is one particular spot where the grass has been kind of trampled down, and there's like noticeable crimson, basically kind of a dark red area around that trampled grass.
Oh, what is it? Can I tell?
Are you going out to it?
Yeah, I'll walk over to it.
Okay.
I'll
Same.
say, "Hang on," to
Jones.
Jones. Hang on a second, and then I'll walk over to that, wherever it is.
Stands inside the
Okay.
room and looks back out.
Okay. So, both of you will basically, the first thing that will hit you,
Oh God.
is basically that, it's the smell of decay. Basically, it's the first thing that kind of hits you is the smell of decay. The second thing that hits you, basically you see as you get closer, basically is it becomes relatively obvious that the basically that the red and crimson around it is dried blood. And basically you will find a dead raccoon in the center of all of this basically trampled section. It is lying basically face down, basically face down in the grass. No obvious marks on its back or back head, basically back or head. It is definitely fresh. Probably within basically several days, you're guessing. You can give me a biology roll, or medicine, or natural world.
You said biology, medicine, or what?
Natural world.
Okay. Oh man.
Yeah, you're fairly certain it's relatively risky. You're going to have to get closer and kind of basically you're not certain what killed it. You're going to have to get closer and maybe poke or prod it.
Keiko will kind of use the toe of her shoe and try and just roll it over.
Okay. Rolling it over basically makes it really easy to figure out that the cause of death is the fact that a large hole has been bored into the creature's chest. Its breast is stained with clotted blood. And give me one more biology, medicine, or natural roll check.
That was a narrow success.
Okay. You are basically looking at it as close as you can, obviously, since it reeks. Basically, its heart has been scooped out, and its ribs have been wrenched apart, and then the heart scooped out. It's basically looking at it. You're left with basically you can't 100% rule it. Basically, you're like, was it a fox? Was it? It's because the edges are just a little too smooth to be a beast, but it doesn't seem precise enough to be a human. You're not basically you're left with a weird sense of unease.
Does Keiko Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Does Keiko know that Wentworth is unarmed?
I mean, he's not actively carrying a weapon currently.
Right,
And he
but
doesn't look like the
he
type that carries or knows much about guns.
Okay. She'll look at him and go, Are you armed? Do you have anything to protect yourself with?
I mean, I was a boxer when I was young and did okay.
I have a hockey stick. Would you like to hold on to that for a while?
Okay, seriously, you have a hockey stick?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I know, right?
Wow, that's a
like
lot.
it's listed amongst her possessions, and I'm only it's just like we got Casey Jones here of just a hockey stick strapped to her back.
Yeah, I've just been assuming it's been like just you strapped to her little satchel, her bag.
Why not?
All right, so Keiko will hand the hockey stick to Wentworth, and then would her science kit tell her anything more about this raccoon corpse, or would she know whether that's a waste of time and effort?
Like, are you going to basically, like, with the science kit, could you do a full autopsy on it, essentially?
Could I learn any more about it, or is it like
there doesn't seem to be that much, like, cause of death is fairly straightforward in this case. Like, you're not seeing anything in particular that's like you're not having to guess at what killed this. The fact that its organs are, its heart is gone, is like it's the leading cause of death here.
Okay,
There's
cool. Then
the
go
best
ahead.
you could do is if you dug deeper and tried to examine basically, you don't see anything like traces of fiber or anything else like that in the wound or anything like that.
Okay, then let's not do what I was thinking. Okay, Keiko will walk back over to the door and very quietly explain what they saw to Jones. Because I don't know what he could see from the door, but she wants him to know.
Probably not a lot.
Yeah.
So going back to Jones, when you come inside, what you will find inside is kind of basically a little bit of a mess. You'll see a fireplace which has embers, basically obviously has burned wood, basically has obviously been lit recently. A wool blanket basically has been basically kind of tossed down besides the fireplace. A empty can of Campbell's pork and beans lies nearby. A dirty tin spoon, surplus from the Great War, likely sticks out of the can. There's a walking stick on the table, as well as basically the large piece of fabric, which contains basically matches, soap, tin cup, screwdriver, jackknife, little bits of candle, a can opener,
Got it.
little bits of things like that. You notice that there is a attic in the ceiling. Basically, a door to it is probably like basically it's obviously basically kind of a push access to the attic. Basically above your head, and that's about it. Basically, what you see, and then Keiko will come in and basically after you're kind of poking around in here and that's examining that, Keiko will come in and tell you what she found.
Okay, cool.
What part of the room is the attic door over?
This back room. It's in essentially the center of
The center of the room. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
As a brief note, just to basically, I'm going to move some of you really quickly, just to show you something else because it's currently unavailable. There we go. This is a map of the house, basically in the area. So basically, this is the barn. And this is the house. That's basically over here. Basically, there is the dead tree, and this is the main road that you came in on over there. You will have noticed that there is a garden plot basically to the south of the house. And there's a well
Is anything
as well.
growing in it?
Some well-grown vegetables. Basically, like there still seems to be some vegetables that have survived
Okay.
growing
Nothing that
wild.
looks deliberate, though.
Mm-hmm. No, basically, it looks like it basically is long ago and has basically gone to seed, gone feral, depending however you want to describe it. What happens when you take a garden plot and just leave it?
So it's overgrown, but there are some edible foods there.
Yep.
Got it.
Basically, and you found the raccoon essentially here.
I can't see.
Yep, I'm on the
Yeah, I
wrong
think you're
layer.
on the wrong layer, Mark.
Yep. Like hers.
Got it.
Okay. I will bring you back to the house. I think you were right about there. Listen.
All right.
I can't move my character past the door.
I think you have to go, yeah. Basically,
Thank you.
there you go.
What did you do, Mark?
Does Dr. Jones find anything rifling through the desk?
Nothing, obviously. Basically, there's the stuff on top of it, and that's about it. Everything else is long been basically either looted or removed. Basically, it's hard to tell. You find mostly dust.
The blanket / fabric, whatever it is on the floor, is that?
That's a
Does this
blanket. The fabric's on the table.
Okay, the blanket on the floor, does that basically just look like someone's slept there at some point?
The blanket, yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's somebody's makeshift bed. Got it.
Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and give me an int roll.
A what?
Int roll. Go straight int.
Intelligence?
Yep.
Got it. Oh, jeez.
Okay. You have spent so much of your time in the city. Jones, give me one as well.
And that's an int roll?
Intelligence, yes. Just the straight stat.
You would like to think that Jones has that.
No.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, right. It's up. Yeah. Got it. Hey.
You've lived a little bit more of a rough and tumble life than Keiko has. And so you are familiar with this is obviously a hobo traveling pack, as it were.
Yeah,
Unwrapped bindle. Sorry, bindle is the correct term.
Somebody has been living here for sure. You know,
But-
one thing we haven't done yet.
Mhm.
Is there a lock on the door?
This thing here
On the
is a bar that would be even used to keep the back door locked.
But there's not like a walk across to the front door.
Okay.
Open it up. Is there a lock on it?
Mm-hmm.
Test the key in it. And just make sure that the key we have actually works in this lock.
It does.
Okay. Just checking. close and lock the door
Okay.
and the back door, just for good measure.
You're
Well,
now.
we better let Wentworth in first.
I think Wentworth is
Yeah.
inside.
Once
I
everybody's
think
in.
he just
Yeah.
moved himself towards the cellar. I can't tell if he's indicating he's going downstairs or.
Okay.
Tony, if you are speaking, you're currently muted.
That's where he got stuck.
Okay.
Ah,
I
When
finally
we
got it
came back
moved.
to this map.
cool.
Yeah, Keiko will close and bar the back door.
Okay. You're now securely inside the house.
We have possession of the house.
Or does the house have possession of us?
Well, I mean,
Are you possessed? All right. Well, once we've investigated everything there is up here, I guess it's time to go down into the cellar.
well, hang on. Hang on 1 second. Let me just.
I'm a man of action.
I know, but
I'm a man with a hockey stick.
Oh,
it. Mm, on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
are there any remnants of the aforementioned summoning circle? Like, can Keiko tell if that all took place up here in either of these rooms?
Give me spot hidden. Okay. The answer is yes. You can catch basically they are not basically the circle that is in basically that was on the floor. Is very definitely basically been weathered and warped. And basically you're finding the occasional scratched basically like scratched remains of something, or maybe a little bit of maybe a smeared symbol that was underneath something, like underneath under a chair. The stuff that is on the lintels and everything like that inside is still clear and there, but the stuff on the floor is very definitely gone.
Which room was it in?
It was in the back room.
Okay.
You're guessing basically you're guessing it was kind of around the basically there was a burned mark in the center of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically from what you can recreate, it looks to have been based around that.
Okay. Keiko points this out to the others. Sorry. Okay. So, whatever happened, it happened in this back room. I'm still not convinced it was actually what Rupert said, but something happened here. Am I muted?
Yeah.
No,
Okay, good.
but I had a mouthful of Kit Kats, so.
He's taking a break.
Oh, darn.
No, the fat kid doesn't have a bag of candy in his desk. Anyway. So if everything happened in this room, can we get out of this room, please?
Yeah, that's fair. The one with the fireplace in it, yeah. So there's a sofa, chair, table. Hey, where did they make food?
Fireplace or the
On the
stove?
little.
Yeah. This is basically
that little
this does not look like
wood burning
this
stuff.
looks like it has been converted from a living place to a meeting place.
Got it.
Basically,
I wish they
back
said they did.
yeah.
There's no sink or restroom. Very interesting.
Uh,
The
Even
whole
the-
world is your restroom when
do
you're
you,
living like
and
this.
basically, you're fairly certain you saw at
Yeah.
least one lean-to, the remains of an outhouse outside.
Ah,
So,
yes.
your modern
Nature's toilet. I
sensibilities
mean,
are showing.
yes, indeed.
This is an older house, so no, there is no running water here.
So you're saying there's no
Fair
ice
enough.
maker either.
Yep, no ice maker. You got a well outside. Not even a microwave.
Oh my gosh. Has the dust on this table been disturbed anytime recently?
Basically, there are basically from all your movements in here, but basically that table, no, not really. The big table in this room, no.
Yeah, the round one. Sorry.
Yeah, it looks like most of the activity was around the table. Basically, like you've got the stuff which is unrolled on the table in the back. Obviously, it's hard to tell because it did rain somewhat recently, so everything is a little bit basically. Obviously, water has dripped through various points, basically points of the roof. So,
Did the muddy footprints come into this room?
they basically most of the muddy footprints are in the back room. There's one or two kind of heading in this basically kind of, but obviously after a little bit of tramping around, they seem to have knocked the mud off their feet, as it were.
Okay.
Now, can we get downstairs?
Dr. Jones is just patiently waiting, staring at you. I will mention it to Dr. Jones. Looking down the stairs, you're looking down into darkness.
Did any of us remember to
Right, but we
grab
have a torch.
something? I don't know.
Mm,
Do you have a
Well,
torch?
well,
Keiko
have it.
does not.
Neither electric nor otherwise.
Yeah.
I didn't have a gun. What makes you think I have a torch?
Is there any chance there's a flashlight somewhere in this? I don't know if flashlights were around back then.
They exist.
Yeah.
But they are
Was there
They're a
anything-
little bit more valuable and unlikely to be just lying around.
Correct.
True.
You are
There's a
fairly certain
fireplace,
that you
though.
saw hanging off the front door basically a lantern.
Ah.
That's over here.
Yep, basically right.
And yeah, okay. Does it have fuel? Keiko will
Yes.
check. Okay. Can one of you light that? Like, is it gas or does it require a match?
It is oil and wick.
Okay, it requires a match. I don't have a match.
Natural lighter.
Nope.
There's got to be one over by the fireplace. Somebody's been living here.
Is there something over here?
Basically in the pile of stuff on the table, there are indeed matches.
Oh, Keiko will grab those and light the lantern and bring it with her.
Okay. You now have a lit lantern.
And the matches. She's taking those with. Want to be clear about that.
Okay.
All right.
So
I'm
you're
ready.
going into the attic?
No, we're going into the basement.
Going into the
sorry.
cellar.
Going into the basement. Okay.
Creepy cellar.
Who's going down first?
Not it.
I'll go in first. Do you mind holding the lantern behind me and following me down?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Doop, 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 doop.
And I'll
Down
bring up
stairs.
the rear with my hockey
Pop,
stick.
pop, pop.
So I'll move you to the basement, the cellar. All right, give me basically, Dr. Jones. Give me a spot hidden check.
Yeah.
Are the stairs enclosed, or can we see down?
You can see down them as you bring the light
Okay.
down.
Down to the left.
Hidden.
Yep.
Yeah.
You probably can't see back
Sounds-
here, but I don't have the lighting set
Sure.
up technically correctly for that.
That's what I'm talking
Sure.
about.
Okay. So basically you will start to creak down the stairs. And you get about, basically, Keiko is probably still at the top. You're probably about most of the way down when there basically someone will basically you'll see someone coming just out of the darkness back here. And basically will rush at you, and you'll get a brief glimpse of a dirty kind of face and a chair leg being swung at your head.
Duck.
As that gentleman comes out of the darkness. However, since you spotted him, he does not get a surprise roll.
Yay.
He just gets a normal attack here. Let's bring up his stats. He has.
I don't actually know how this works.
There you
Do I roll a contested dodge or does he roll
So
against something?
basically how it works, basically how combat works in this system. He is going to roll, basically he's going to roll against his fighting skill. If he gets a success or a hard success, he will hit. Otherwise, he will miss. When it comes to actual combat, it will be a little bit, basically, it will be slightly different. There will be basically, you will both roll at that point. But for this one, it is just him swinging at you. Fighting. We gave him a fighting of 0. Oh, there it is, brawl. Okay, so he swings it at your head and basically just wildly swings in your direction and just whiffs completely. He's very definitely the best description for him is he is basically down at his heels, scraggly hair and beard, weathered features. This is someone who definitely has lived basically kind of a hard life, and basically spent a lot of his time outdoors, not really staying in any one place. So how fighting will work, basically what's basically the initiative, as it were, is kind of determined by what your dexterity is. If you just look at your dexterity, oops, if I start the turn tracker, I can click that. No, it will not actually add it to the turn tracker. Okay. In any case, his initiative is 60 because that is his dex. If you look on your character, dexterity. If you look at your character, you will also have a dexterity as well. Basically, if you go into combat, you'll see most of the combat relevant stats listed under that tab, like such as your weapons, your dodge, and other.
It added it to the turn tracker.
Oh, it did add. Basically, it just took a little bit for it to register. There we go. And then Wentworth, you're the last one.
What am I supposed to hit?
If you click on the
to turn tracker, maybe that button.
Yep.
Yeah, that one.
Dexterity.
I has the smart.
Woo. And I will click the start descending. So, essentially, what an action here is you can basically you can move up to your move rate. Basically, move up to your move rate multiplied by 5, and that's in yards. And you can make one melee attack at the end of the round. Firearms, you can take a shot at any point in your basically in the round. Basically on your initiative. So you're up first, Jones.
Hey, step out, like out here,
Okay.
and turn back, pointing my 38 at him. Stop, or I'll be forced to shoot.
Okay.
And I just aim at him.
Okay. You're just aiming at him.
Do I get a good look of, like, it's a person, I assume?
Yes. I mean, basically, you're getting a little bit wild light since Keiko is kind of holding a lantern. You're getting a little bit of swinging
Yeah,
from.
yeah,
Obviously, she's reacting to someone shouting and charging.
of course.
He definitely looks basically he's definitely a little wild-eyed from what you could see in the light. Okay. He is going to ignore you and try to get up the stairs. So he is going to end up running into Keiko. And is going to try to kind of shove her out of the way with his brawl. So this is going to be one of those contested.
All right.
Basically, you have two things you can do. You can attempt to dodge it, or you can attempt to basically kind of do a fighting block, as it were. Basically, if you're dodging, you're just avoiding damage. Fighting basically is we're both trying to fight here, and whoever has the higher fight may do damage to the other side. It's more of an active type block.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to you which one you want to roll. He is going to be rolling fighting, as he's essentially kind of shoving you off the stairs, as it were.
Now, am I allowed to get a pot shot at him as he attempts to charge them?
No.
Okay.
Is he coming straight at me, or is he trying to just push by me?
He is shoving past you. Basically, it is very definitely it is not a just, pardon me, it is a rough shove. Like, if you do not dodge, you will take damage.
Yeah, so let's dodge.
Okay.
You just need me to click that?
Yep, just click dodge.
Dang it.
And I click brawl.
Oh no.
He gets an extreme success.
That's very unfortunate to happen to the person carrying the light source.
Yep.
So what that means is an extreme success. He has achieved a better level of success. So he will do a small bit of damage. So he will do extreme damage because he did get an extreme success. So you will take 3 points of damage as he essentially kind of shoves you off the stairs, and you kind of end up on the floor. The lantern will kind of roll away from you, kind of throwing the entire room into crazy shadows as it rolls essentially back here, we will say. It is not yet spilled out. Obviously, lanterns were designed to be a little bit proof of just breaking and shattering and spilling oil everywhere. So, for now, it is still relatively safe. You will have taken 3 points of damage, and is now kind of he's continuing to head up the stairs towards Wentworth. It is your turn, Keiko.
So Keiko says, ow, really loud, and then gets up. And so just to be clear, there was no like handrail on this side of the stairs.
Correct. There might have
Okay.
been one at one point, but it has long since.
It's long gone. All right.
Yes.
That helps my mental understanding of what just happened. Hmm. Keiko will get up and try to grab this homie's foot and trip him.
Okay.
What would you like?
That would be most likely. That is. This is a fighting. Basically, under fighting skills, that's probably brawl.
Okay.
Unless you have another fighting skill under fighting, that would.
I have unarmed, but it's the same number, so
Okay.
I don't know that it matters.
Yep. Okay, so he dodges. Okay, you both fail, so it's just basically he manages to just barely get his foot out of the way. Wentworth, your probably last action before I know you have to go.
Well, he's coming right after me after knocking Keiko off. I'm bringing that hockey stick up and just gonna block with that.
Okay. So you're holding it in a position ready to basically stop him if he continues further.
Well, it's that, and I figure he'd probably be closer to me by now, so it'd probably be also more of a pushing him back down.
Okay, so you want to actually kind of aggressively push at him? Okay.
Yeah.
Give me the brawl skill then. Okay. His dodge. Failure.
It's over, Anakin. I've got the high ground.
Indeed, you do have it. That's great. That's great. You do not have that's great. You do have that's great, but you do in fact have the high ground. So you will actually shove him back, and he will go sprawling at the bottom of the stairs.
Hockey stick.
The hockey stick, by the way, has a fighting score of 45 also, so.
Well, basically, it's still his. That's your skill. That's the skill that's associated with it. So, the damage would be what he needs if he was actually trying to swing it at somebody. But he was just he was doing a fighting maneuver, which is just take brawl, compare, and then knock him down. So, yep, he falls to the ground. Basically, kind of sprawls there, and then it is Nevada's turn. And if you need to head out at this point, Wentworth.
Yeah, I probably should. The little one's going to be asking to call soon. So, everyone, have a good one.
Good night.
Oh, good night.
Take care. Have a good night. I don't have any rope on me. Stay put, I say. What is your name? I'll plant a foot firmly on his chest, pointing the gun at him. What is your name?
Okay. He will so like basically give you a psychology roll.
Oh no. Nah.
Okay. This is basically
Got no clue.
he's mad, obviously. It's
Yeah. Oh well.
he's just
Mad
kind of.
as in angry?
It's
No.
hard to tell. He's shouting a
Oh,
lot
okay.
and making noises, and he is obviously making an attempt to get back up and head back up the stairs.
Can I make a persuade check to convince him otherwise? I'm assuming there's no point, but you know.
You could give me a
Me as the
persuade
player
check.
gets what's going on, but
That's good. You can give me a persuade check.
Oh my god.
that's not how I saw that going down.
You only have 10? Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I could have
Yikes.
asked for psychoanalysis, I guess, but I don't think that's any better for you.
No.
Okay, so you're basically he does not.
There it is.
Oh
Nicely
my
done.
god.
Worst possible roll.
Oh no.
You're convinced that what this man needs is a stiff shock to the system. It is the best way to deal with this type of situation, obviously. You have encountered things like this where when on a dig site, someone will go a little bit, mad at the ideas and things like that and the occult surroundings and just lose their minds, as it were, the weak-willed. Basically, subject to superstition and things like that. And basically, a good hard slap sometimes breaks them out of it. Just the best you're currently thinking.
Get a hold of yourself, man.
Okay. Do you wish to do anything else? So basically, you're kind of just staring at him. I will let you actually take an actual action as opposed to just mental ones.
You're talking to Jones,
I'm
right?
talking to James, yes.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to hurt him. I legitimately, Jones hasn't figured out what's going on here, and doesn't want to hurt the guy if he can help it. Is he still wielding the chair?
No, he lost that when he fell.
Well, then I'm not gonna try to. I'm not gonna shoot him. I'm gonna wait and see what he does.
Okay. He's going to get up. He will shout something about how he has to get out of here before the monster, and then he will charge back up the stairs. He will kind of swing at Wentworth. We'll try to shove Wentworth. We'll see if he does any better. No, he does not. Wentworth will pull him up here shortly. So basically, Wentworth will they'll be kind of locked in that tussle as basically Wentworth kind of shoves the hockey stick out and basically the man will grab it and kind of trying to be grappling him. Keiko?
Okay, well, Keiko will quickly reach down and right the lantern so
Okay.
that the flame doesn't go out. she heard him say something about the monster, right?
Mm-hmm. Everyone did. He shouted it relatively loud.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Um. I'm just looking at my notes.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have? Dang, I was hoping I had some food in my bag, but I don't. She'll just say, "Wait, what monster? Tell us what you know."
Give me some kind of social skill. Charm,
Mm,
persuasion,
I have fast
psychoanalysis.
talk. Does fast talk work? Oh, I do have charm also.
That's great. Fast talk will work, though you'll probably have to change a little bit what you're saying there. You're going to go for a little bit more convincing.
Hmm. Let me ponder that a moment. Okay, let's go. What?
Tony's still listening.
Oh.
Or was still listening.
All right, let me roll charm. Yeah, that didn't work.
Okay, they're kind of shouting at him.
Help!
Remember, basically, no, we won't actually. Basically, in any case, it is Wentworth's turn after that. Wentworth will attempt to basically kind of shove the man down. So he'll give a quick brawl check here. Or unarmed, rather. Oops. Verbose. Skills. Brawl. Well, again, this is successfully Wentworth proving to be this game. It's kind of like, oh, this is all
bouncer.
very exhilarating. It's normally outside of my classroom. I don't have this level of excitement. But it turns out, I should maybe look into this field hockey sport. Quite exciting, invigorating. As he shoves him back down to the bottom of the stairs again, we'll actually give him 1d3 points of damage on that one. So he will do 2 points of damage on that one. Actually, we'll say 4 because he's done that twice to the guy, shove him back to the ground. He'll just kind of be like, I say, man, calm down, get a hold of yourself. We're not trying to hurt you. We're just here. Basically, we want to know. We're not monsters. Calm down and explain yourself. Basically, after having to
Such rolls!
Wow.
Kind of takes the tone of like the professor dealing with an obnoxious student, and apparently that just cuts through. The figure is basically madness for a bit. And he just kind of lays there, kind of panting on the floor. Still looks a little wild-eyed, but basically is kind of just kind of like, we have to. The monsters. We can't stay here long. Are you people crazy? Last night, thought it was a thought this place would be safe. Screams, smell. I don't know if it's going to something chasing me.
Something chasing you here?
I found this place as I was it kind of hems and haws as I was basically taking a walk, exploring the countryside. I've decided to take a few years and go walking, perfectly normal. Kind of going up and down the seaboard, basically after the war. And so basically found this house and figured it would be no one else was using it, so I figured it looked like a nice place to settle down for the night. So basically came here and basically set up, and then went outside to get some water, and then there's just this basically just this screech, and then basically something was behind me. I ran. Basically there was this smell like rotten meat, and then basically then the screech, and then basically then like suddenly basically I was heading towards the house, and basically then suddenly basically the screech basically was not behind me anymore. It was somewhere else, and then there was like I don't know. I got inside, and basically maybe I outran it, or maybe I don't know, maybe it left, and then shut the door, and then fired it. Basically shut the door, and then I swore I heard something, maybe a woman screaming. Sounded different than the first screech, and then nothing, then just silence. And I've been hiding here since, and basically heard people moving upstairs, and then basically figured if you came down, I'd take my chances and get out of here. Figuring if there are people poking around, the monster either working with the monster or something, I don't know. But figured I'd take my chance and get out while it was still daylight. Not stick around here another night.
Keiko is scribbling notes
That
on
makes
her
sense.
notepad as he's talking.
We're definitely not here to harm you. We're the new owners of this place, actually.
You're welcome to it. I want nothing more to do with it. I just want out.
Did you actually see anything?
It was dark, man.
Sounds dark.
I turned around, and basically like something maybe was moving. Like,
was this last night?
Yeah.
How
Wouldn't
long
have stuck
have you
around here more than
stayed
one day.
Ah, so you came in for one day, and all this happened in one day.
I mean, yeah, I came by. Basically, it was getting dark, so basically it was starting to rain a little. So I basically kind of looked for a place to put a roof over my head for the night. Man's want to
What
do.
year is it?
What?
What year is it?
1923. He gives the correct year.
Okay.
What does that got to do
I'm
with
sorry,
anything?
what's your name?
I'm Jake. Red Jake. Some of my friends call me.
Jake. Okay.
Robert's my actual name, miss. He kind of belatedly takes his hat off and kind of not bow, but kind of basically like no, basically kind of politely nods his head towards Keiko. Like Red Jake's what like basically what the others call me. So you could call me that.
Red Jake. Yeah, that's not one of the names on our list.
No. Nope.
Just looking through my notes. Okay. Well, thank you for the information. Sorry for the fright. You're welcome to leave.
Basically, I'm getting out of here. You're welcome to whatever's in this house, whatever lives here. I want nothing to do with it.
Jake, you didn't go up in the attic, did you?
No, ma'am. Didn't
Okay.
have any reason to. Just looking for a place to rest my head for the night.
To stay dry. I get it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, take care of yourself, Jake.
It'll be much better off once I'm out of here. And he heads upstairs, and you can hear him kind of moving around and packing stuff up. And where'd my matches go? Well, it doesn't matter. And this you can hear him tying things back up, and then basically shortly thereafter, unless you guys do anything to stop him, he will head out the door.
Nope,
I don't see any reason to stop him.
not at all.
He was clearly terrified.
Yeah. I'm interested in kind of straightening this room back up and figuring out what we got going on down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keiko will have a look at this, what appears to be a chest.
Yes, there is a chest in a trunk. Essentially, it's more of a trunk than a chest, but yes.
Does it open?
Yes. Opening it up, well, basically, you'll see a folded black cloth with a handwritten letter written on top, resting on top.
Hmm.
Give me spot hidden.
Okay.
You will also note, basically, immediately on the underside of the lid are more of those same sigils which have been carved into the lintels and the doorways of everything else in this house.
And do they match with the signs carved into the inside of the gold sarcophagus?
The inside, no.
Okay.
Or not even the outside. They're not hieroglyphics either.
Yeah. I assumed it if they were hieroglyphics, you would have said so.
No.
Keiko will point that out to the others as she picks up the letter and opens it. Is it addressed on the outside?
It is basically, if you're looking at the letter, it looks like this. I'll actually throw those in here. One second, I have to. Yes. Here is what the letter says. It's handwritten.
It's blacked out.
Blacked out.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
see anything.
it's just a white
Thing.
There's nothing on the handout.
1 second. I put it in the wrong section. There you go.
Thank you.
I put it in the GM section, which does not help in Roll20.
Oh.
Keiko will read it aloud if that works.
Yeah.
That's fine.
3rd March, 1877. Which was right before, she'll point out, the summoning, which was on the 18th of that month.
It's not right before. It should be after.
I have March 18th written down.
Then basically the date written on it is incorrect, and it should be like March 19th or 20th.
Okay. 19th March, 1877.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm putting this down on paper. It's probably a bad idea, but I feel the need to leave some kind of explanation for my actions and intent. When I took the sarcophagus from my uncle, I did not think it would be missed. I expected to be able to research it and return it later. I was such a fool. Despite believing in the powers we tried to summon, I grossly misunderstood the consequences. Now Robert is dead and Harold a madman. I'm going back to the farmhouse to organize our things. I dread stepping foot again in that place, but I must make sure that our materials will be available again when we need them. Since the others are too shaken to attempt a banishment of the creature, I can only hope that the thing hasn't the power to remain in our reality for more than a few hours or days. At least it's bound to the house itself. I shall search for a means to destroy it before the last of us passes from this world and it's released from the house if it is still there. I believe I know where I can find the knowledge I need to drive the creature away without assistance from others. I hear tales of mystics in New Orleans that know much of the true magics of the world. I am leaving the gold box in Rupert's care. I told him not to sell it or have it appraised by anyone, but did not tell him why. He also seemed puzzled by my insistence not to live in Boston, but I believe he trusts my judgment not to go into danger unwittingly. My uncle does not know about our dark brotherhood, so Rupert and the others will be safe from anyone looking for it. I'll be back to put things right again. Mary and Allen. P.S. I write this before I close the lid on the trunk. The thing is still in the attic of the house. It seemed to recognize me and spoke foul curses at me. I will carve protective words on the trunk to prevent any tampering with its contents, just in case.
Oops.
Basically,
So it's in the attic of the house that we're in right now.
Mm,
Nice.
yeah.
That's assuming that it hadn't didn't walk out the door with the man we just released.
also in
No, it's
the
Good times.
Sorry.
also in the trunk are 6 folded black robes, a cigar box, and a sheaf of yellowed papers, which seem torn out of something.
Oh, I see. Torn from something. Got it.
Okay. Yeah, so can we look through the torn papers?
What's in the cigar box?
Okay.
You
Cigar
said
box
6 black
is
robes?
6 black robes, yes.
Okay.
The cigar box contains a small metal canister. Opening up the canister, it contains a coarse and brownish powder. There's also a smaller wooden box with a sliding lid. Inside of that is a silvery talcum powder-like substance. Chemistry or pharmacy to identify the powders.
Interesting. I don't have either of those, but I do have my science kit.
Chemistry or pharmacy don't even show up on my character sheet.
Yeah.
Maybe under.
I have natural world.
Yeah. None of these characters. I will take medicine if you have that.
Mm. I'll give it a shot.
That's a no. You got closer than I did.
Yep, true.
Okay. So you're not quite certain, and you can also technically you can also give me a Cthulhu Mythos lore to identify the silvery powder.
No, I can't.
If I have a score of 0, can I roll that?
No.
didn't
I thought
think
you actually did have a Cthulhu Mythos score because.
Yeah, I have 0.
No, I thought that she got one from reading the notes.
Oh,
Maybe.
I'm trying to
what
remember.
would that have given me?
I'm double checking.
A point or two of insanity.
I mean, it
Well,
did. She did actually.
yeah, I lost
took-
a point of sanity.
She lost. She did lose sanity for reading the journal, but I thought it also gave you a. Basically, it adds 1 percentile to the reader's Cthulhu Mythos, as well as granting
So
a
I
skill
get-
check and occult, which is something that
Okay.
would actually be used later if you leveled it up. But
Okay, so I have a 1 now instead of a
yep, you have
0.
a 1. Now you have a 1 in the Cthulhu Mythos skill.
And what in occult?
Something that would be it's a skill check thing, but that is something that is only relevant for it's that tick to the left. It has to do with leveling it up later.
I see. Okay, well, here is a Cthulhu Mythos roll.
Okay. Both of you could give me int checks.
Yeah.
We'll take that as the last thing here.
Int, you said?
Yes, intelligence. Okay.
And Wentworth didn't have medicine or any of that?
Wentworth has a 1 in medicine. Yeah, no.
Well,
You barely stop him from like just licking his finger and sticking it in.
what? Stop, dude.
Well, it's just the easiest way to check. That's not how Cthulhu Mythos. However, that intelligence check, basically, you will remember from your time reading the journal that 2 different powders are mentioned. Basically, a powder is mentioned in there. A powder of Imingazi was mentioned. Which one of basically, but there wasn't a description given of it, so it is possible that one of these 2 powders is that.
Got it. Keiko shares that with the others.
Okay. We haven't found anything about what the ritual might be to send this thing back where it came from, or so help me.
Well, you did ask about the torn papers.
Yes.
Fair.
The last thing in there, basically, the torn papers are the papers that have been removed from the Vermis Mysterii.
Nice.
Lucky for you, Wentworth speaks Latin.
Huzzah. Hey, so do I.
Let's see, yellow sheets of paper.
Not very well.
There are also notes scrawled on them, which are from basically in a handwriting which matches the handwriting on the letter on top. 6 of the sheets of paper, basically, rather, one basically, not all of them were torn out. One of them is torn out. The other, basically, let's see here. All the pages are basically have handwritten notes. All the notes are dated 1877. Basically, 6 of the sheets of paper are all the same. All of them copies of the same Latin chant. These are basically their phrases in Latin. Basically, essentially, they are essentially an exorcism type chant. I exorcise you by this name. I exorcise you by this, etc., etc. I need to actually put the.
So this isn't the same as handout Edge 4?
No, this is this one.
Okay.
So that is what the Latin chant essentially translates to. Basically, another sheet is basically one of the sheets is torn from a book and has a picture of a pentagram in it. Looks like that. basically, the other is a page obviously torn from the various mystery with notes on it, basically stating that the chant was the ritual for releasing the spirit trapped inside the ancient amber. And several words within the incantation have been replaced, changing the original summoning ritual to one of exorcism. So basically, it's a copy of the same chant that you have in the other handout, only it's the original summoning chant. So it's instead of I exorcise you, it's I beseech you, I command you, I summon you, etc., etc. And basically, it's got notes where basically it's like, well, this should work, and basically kind of scrolling out words and basically doing that, and then obviously that chant has been then copied to the other sheets of the 6 sheets. The last, basically, there is 3 sheets, which are basically handwritten notes of exactly how the ritual would have to be executed to actually remove the creature. Basically, the ritual of Celt, which takes an hour to perform and must be started at midnight. While at least one person speaks aloud the ritual phrases, another person must draw the pentagram on the floor, while another burns a certain combination of chemicals in a fire nearby. His basically scrawled notes in the margins basically mention that this is a brown powder, which he has stored and prepared in a metal canister ready for use. While one person may perform the ritual chants, the notes recommend that several people take part, allowing each individual to occasionally interrupt their chanting without disturbing the overall ritual or its potency. If the chant is continuous, with at least one person reciting the repeating phrases, repeated phrases aloud, the spirit must succumb. However, it warns that even the slightest disruption of the chanting might result in failure, requiring another ritual to be performed on a following night. The notes suggest that during a ritual, a watcher should be posted, lest the sorcerers be disturbed by the nuisances and distractions of malevolent spirits. Basically, in total, it seems like the chant will take about the ritual will take about 2 hours, begun at midnight.
Wow. Do we even have enough people for this?
The answer is yes, but you're going
do
to
it on
have
his
to.
own.
Yeah, you'll have to either make some sacrifices, either not having somebody like you can have somebody chanting and watching, and you can be kind of trading off on the chanting. It's just one per the chant has to be continuous the entire 2 hours. But you can have someone else come in and pick it up, and then the other person drops out, and then someone else comes in and picks it up, as it were.
Okay.
Given that this is all in Latin, I suggest that Wentworth be the primary, and I'll be the backup to spot him if necessary.
I mean, we still haven't seen proof that this creature actually exists.
Do you really want the proof, or should we just get rid of it? And just saying.
I simply just don't believe in the hocus pocus piece of this.
He is asking you to spend 2 hours at midnight standing in a house, shouting in Latin, while burning random things.
Things that we don't even know what they are.
Fair. Maybe they're trying to get us to summon something instead of dispel it. Except that the guy that was living here last night certainly saw something happen.
Well, I mean, he
was
there's
clearly
no denying.
disturbed when we'll toss in. I mean, you can't 100%
Yeah,
take his word as honesty. I mean, the man said he was a veteran from the war, and we all know at least one person who came back from the war slightly Well, the horrors of the war were
Shell-shocked.
terrible things.
Shell-shocked.
Shell-shocked, yes.
Mhm.
Right now we're dealing with basically a shell-shocked veteran and a dying man. The ravings of a dying man are our only things we're going off of here.
Yeah.
I believe something happened to Rupert.
You're welcome to go into the attic. I'm prepared to take it on faith.
I
Have
suppose
we
you would,
heard-
and you and your strange pokings and ruins and other stuff. Had to conduct.
How-
Good.
Sorry, you're RPing and I'm getting
Okay.
ahead of
Basically-
myself. Go ahead.
Basically, like you've probably seen stranger things that you've had to go through when you were visiting strange countries.
Indeed. I've seen things that would make your skin crawl.
Sure. The rest of us have to kind of, you're asking a little bit of us just to play dress up or whatever it is. Shout Latin. Townsfolk already didn't like us. I don't know if someone wanders by, we might be taken for, witches or something like that. And I don't know if this town takes kindly to that.
Well, I mean, all we have to do is show them the deed and they'll have to leave anyway. So I don't know if we need to worry quite that much about it. But here's what I would like to know. And this is a question for Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Have we heard anything from the attic since we've been here?
Most of the noises you heard were coming from the cellar.
Okay.
Like you heard wind going through the attic.
But the roof has holes in it, probably.
Yes.
So
Basically, at this point, you have not basically paid enough attention to it to pick out anything in particular that would be unusual coming from the attic. So far, the most unusual thing you've seen is the raccoon.
there was the raccoon, and I just don't know what would have done that to it. Like, I can't think of an animal that would bore a hole, like a round hole, into another animal just to get its heart out.
Right?
Is there anything else of interest down here? Like, I see what could be paper or jars on these shelves.
There are basically looking through the you will basically looking through the cellar, you will find that it is definitely stocked for basically you're guessing that the Dark Brotherhood, as it were, definitely had it stocked for their meetings, and so you will find various basically like paper, you will find nails, hammer, lumber for repairing stuff, probably some oil, excess oil, wicks, other things for basically setting up light, matches, probably some expired food.
Okay, well, let's at least take these things upstairs and see what's going to happen. Maybe we should
Okay.
take one of these ladders up.
Okay. You're returning upstairs?
Yeah.
I will help you carry a ladder up. Where was the opening again? It's in the other room over here. Yeah.
this now much emptier room.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I assume his bindle and everything is gone now, yeah?
Correct.
Yep.
Keiko will get a fire going.
Okay. Doesn't take too much work, given that you have a good bed of coals from previous night.
And about what time of day is it now?
You're probably around mid-afternoon at this point.
Well, we wouldn't be starting this thing until midnight anyway, so should we go and see what's in the barn?
Sure. We can do that. So there's no sign of anything up there. So barn works.
So, going out, basically into the, basically going out, basically you go out and you explore. Basically, you're exploring the area outside. Basically, starting with the barn. I'm going to move you down to this area. Going through it, basically, basically the barn is obviously basically what it basically has not been. Basically, while the house was obviously maintained somewhat by the Dark Brotherhood, essentially when they took ownership of it, the barn pretty much it's been left to rot, as it were. Give me a natural world check.
Yeah.
Where does that live?
Bottom center. Where is Wentworth? Nope, skills, not spells. He doesn't have any spells. Okay. Basically, Dr. Jones, the one thing that basically kind of there's something tickling you about this barn is it's just on the edges of your brain, and it finally kind of hits you. There are no rats or mice or anything living in this barn. Like, it's a collapsed barn in the middle of a countryside. Things live in that. That basically, like, I mean, there are spider webs and things like that, but nothing larger than basically than insects. No birds, no rats, no raccoons, no rabbits. No sign of any of that living in this barn.
Weird. That doesn't happen in a place like this. Where's the wildlife?
You know, I noticed earlier I didn't hear any bird song.
It's too quiet. Like, I knew it was quiet, but I just realized it's far too quiet.
Everyone give me another spot hidden check as you kind of poke around the area.
Woo!
Okay, Keiko. So Wentworth and
Wow,
Jones
well
kind of
played.
poke around the edges of the basically of the barn and things like that. And Keiko, you basically like a scrap of basically something colorful catches your eye way over here. So basically, you're about 200 yards away from the barn. And basically, as you get closer, you see what looks to be like a scrap of fabric is kind of basically like which is what caught your eye, and it's basically it looks basically it's a like a light blue type fabric, but part of it is definitely stained dark red, and as you start getting closer, you start getting that same kind of rotten death smell that you got
Oh, no.
earlier.
Oh no. And it's fabric.
Not good.
No, not good. Keiko will call to the others to come join her before proceeding any closer.
Okay. You will head deeper into the woods, basically slightly deeper. You'll get to about here. When basically basically that smell gets stronger, and then you will kind of come basically discover the body of a middle-aged woman.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Clothes basically soaked with blood, still somewhat wet from the rain the previous night.
Gross.
Unlike the dead raccoons, she is not as nicely turned upside down to start, revealing yet another large hole in the chest. Upon seeing this, all of you need to give me sanity rolls.
Oof.
What even is that? Sanity.
It's in the top green section.
I am losing my sanity.
Okay. So
Embrace
basically,
madness.
Keiko and Wentworth make the save and lose a point of sanity. While Dr. Jones takes that a little bit harder than the rest, and you will lose 3 points of sanity.
Keiko remembers something and says, "Didn't Red Jake say he heard 2 different kinds of screeches?
You did.
And that the second one sounded like a woman?"
Correct.
Oof. Okay, something is wrong here. Like, I don't.
So there was a real person here then.
Yeah, this person. This person right here, she points at the poor dead lady.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know who or what did this, but I can't ignore the science. Like, we have 2 dead creatures, one animal and one person.
Yep.
All right, so the question is, do we go up into the attic before trying the ritual to see what's going on up there?
Sure. See what's up there. What's the worst that can happen?
Are you okay, Jones?
Fine. Just fine. Ugh. No problem.
Okay.
Hmm.
Going back inside the house.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're back inside the house. Who is going up into the attic?
I'll go into the attic. It's fine.
Ow. Sorry.
No problem.
Unless you want to go into the attic, I'll hold the ladder for you if you prefer.
Before Keiko does anything else, she would like to apply some first aid to herself. She's still a little bruised from when Red Jake pushed her up the stairs.
Okay.
So, am I rolling that?
Basically that is basically you're rolling a first aid.
Dang.
Okay. You end up wrapping and basically bandaging it up. But it still aches a little.
Okay.
Fairly certain you'll have a bruise there.
Okay. So that didn't get me any of my hit points back?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
All right. How late are we going tonight?
I need to wrap up.
We can stop here before you go into the attic.
I think that's
Resume
Sounds
at a
good.
future point.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
All right. So we will move this on to a part 3 where we will resume basically with the entrance into the attic. I will make note of what we have accomplished here and Lorelink. So basically, speaking of Lorelink, the thing you have seen me kind of clicking through and below me right here is the system known as Lorelink. It is our campaign management tool. Basically, it is a system by which you can basically put locations, characters. Actually, I can actually switch to basically actually switch to making that look a little bit bigger. Basically, characters, creatures. As you can see, I've got all the creatures in here for this game. The various locations that we have are listed in here. And I could click through them, and I've created links between them. For example, basically in the cellar, I had descriptions of that. Basically, the trunk and the basically Red Jake were all in here as notes, so I could easily open them up, and then I have them as separate little basically open windows up here, so I could quickly do them rather than having to flip through a PDF and flip back and forth and try to find where all the individual sections are. This breaks it up a lot easier. And if I had been actually planning this out as basically as an actual game, I would have created all those, and I'd be able to keep track of my own notes much faster. And lastly, basically if I want to take notes about the second session, second streaming session, I can basically easily come in here, make some notes. I've over basically that the investigators came by bus to Ross's Corner, came to the farmhouse, and then visit basically found the raccoon. I can't spell raccoon. It's fine. I have the dead body in the woods. Etc. etc. I won't basically take up all the time here, but basically I can make those notes fairly easily, and then when I come back and start the next session, I will have all those notes ready for me, already set up. I can add the events that they have basically that they took part in. So like the fact that basically investigate the farmhouse, I can add that here. Not mark it as complete, but I have it set up here. I can add some of the other events. I can add some of the items and things like that into this basically into here. So I have a quick reference thing that puts it all together. So, if this is interesting to you, there are several different things you can do to find out more about it. Obviously, since we are continuing these campaigns here, you can come back and follow us here on Twitch, and you'll get notified when we go live, and we do planning sessions where I plan out these adventures and build them out in LoreLink. We do gameplay sessions where we actually play through them, and you can see it in action. And every once in a while, just for breaking it up, I play through old video games and RPG type games and have fun with those. So following us here on Twitch will get you all of that. YouTube, our YouTube channel is where you can catch all of our previous sessions with captions and other things like that. That's where all those get uploaded. So if you missed part 1 of this, you can go catch that on YouTube. That is available on the YouTube channel, which has just gotten linked. There is our website, and our website basically will be the place where you can sign up for our newsletter, which is basically a monthly email to you, which will tell you about all the things that we're doing and what we've got coming up in the future. For example, that's where we announced that we will be at Origins. We will have a booth there. Any other events that we will be at, that you can find out about it there. You can follow us on the various social medias. We do have a Facebook and a Twitter. Those are also available if you go to the website as well, or at the link which you just posted. Awesome. And lastly, for the next probably couple of weeks, time is running out. If you're really interested in LoreLink and want to try it out yourself, what it is, basically we have an alpha sign up, or basically you can send us an email, and that will allow you to see come and join us and basically give us feedback on the product there. So all that to say, there are lots of different ways you can find out more about us and support us. So basically pick whichever is at your comfort level and your interest level, and then go from there. And we look forward to hearing from you. Until then, we will catch you later. Farewell.